crew will we bring you the person behind the talent on Pathios production. I'm Jonathan Ojeda, and I'm here today with
My name's Branson Saalinger. Hi, everyone.
who does.
I currently write every now and again for John over here. I've written two stories so far. One is a prequel to his current works, and the other one was The Interrogation, where I did a inquisitorial interview where everything went to shit, and it was beautiful, and it was 40K.
Yes, the one. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole too much, but just a little bit so we can get some more insight. I know for our listeners that are aware of 40K, it's just a deep pit you'll never get out of. All right, so let's get started here.
It's a deep pit that I've been in for 20 years, so you're never getting me out of it.
There, a lot of some people have been there since it started. So yes, it's not uncommon. So where exactly do we begin with? I guess let's start with when did you know you wanted to do writing?
So I've always done writing, when it comes to like just creative writing without really having a reason to do it, because I've always enjoyed the concept of being able to create and shape a narrative or a world. It's also a pretty decent like stress reliever. So one of the big things with me is like I'll only really write whenever I'm super like down or out or just out of it in general. And one of the reasons why is because it helps me relax while I'm doing things, especially with taking me out of a certain situation. So John knows my style of writing, and it's very who's the guy that did A Tale of Two Cities? That dude who takes like three paragraphs to write about a tree swaying in the wind. Yeah, I can do that. And one of the reasons why it helps me like relax, even though it may be overly descriptive, is the fact that I'm able to create and shape that world. So John over here has edited plenty of stuff out and made it go from like 7 paragraphs talking about something to maybe one or two. But one of the reasons why I like doing that is I like being as descriptive as I can be, so I can present my idea, my world that I've created into the reader's mind.
All right, yeah, that's a very good point though. Getting out of the stress. I guess for people that don't fully understand how writing helps you with that is as he said, you're describing your own world. You are creating essentially that stress-free world to get away from everything. Uh, but with 40K, I don't know. I don't know if you want to do that and get away from the stress. You want stress to be in 40K. That's what creates the grimness.
Well, yes, and that one of the big reasons why I like writing about 40K so much, or putting at least my stories in there, is not only is it an incredibly detailed and developed and fleshed out universe, but also I can write about dark things. Like, for example, in the interrogation, halfway through you have the person. Spoiler alert, everyone! If you haven't read it, go check it out. Link in the description. I'm guessing somewhere.
Yeah, it'll be there.
But you have the Inquisitor who's interrogating this person, right? And it's talking about the eventuality of a revolt happening on the planet, and it's all headed up by some demonic cult. Well, in Warhammer, you can have these demonic cults. You can have like all of these things you wouldn't be able to have in real life, because there's no. Well, I mean, maybe there's demonic cults out there
I
somewhere,
was
whatever.
about to
But
say there
I
might be there.
can't. I can't write about them worshiping the dark gods and then having those cults actually have something happen. So, for example, halfway through the story of the interrogation, you start having the person being interrogated talking about this backstory, about trying to summon a demon, and his family being a very affluent family, having access to the basically Necronomicon, for
Mhm.
those non 40K people out there, but the ability to communicate or try to bend the will of demons to a human. And at the very end of it, instead of the good guy winning and the Inquisitor getting all the information she needs and then running off and saving the day, no, she dies horribly after she realized the dude that she's actually interviewing has become the demon host, and that he was only toying with her the entire time. And so you can't really do that dark of a story in like a real life modern setting. I mean, I guess you could, but to me, I think that the 40K allows for more left and right limits to be very squiffy, in the
Yeah.
sense that you can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah, you definitely can. That's a great thing about 40K is they've set up a baseline of something great for things like that to happen. Now, uh, with that prelude story, the interrogation, uh, what? So I approached you. I know a little bit of backstory here. I had approached Branson and I had asked him if he wanted to help me write a story. I had one down. I didn't have a full idea yet, and I was just asking him, "Hey, man, I know you're into 40K. We've talked about it for a little bit. Would you be interested in writing?" Now, what sparked in your mind for that to just be like, "Oh, I got it"? Because I know like it was almost immediate. Like it might have been that same week you had something already set and like ready to go.
Oh, was that for the interrogation, or was that for the word bearer one I've written?
So the word bearer one is later. That's the later one that I've been.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where the villain, because you did for people who are keeping track of the heathen's intent. He wrote the main villain, and he wrote him really smooth. Like it's gonna get there. It hasn't been I haven't released any of that yet, but it's getting there. He's in the sneak peek after the end of part one. But for the interrogation, you had written that fully out, ready to go, and it was pretty quick. So I just want to know like what what inspired all of this to I guess be written real quickly.
So when you just said write me something 40K, and I was like, wait, I could just do whatever, and you were like, yeah, and I was like, okay. And so I've never written like an audio drama similar to how you like it. I've always written in like full form, like just normal creative writing.
Yeah, yeah,
So for this, I know looking into it, like I just did a quick like 10-minute Google search, and I was like, oh, like a discourse, just people talking is a really good way to do like an audio drama. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, wait, what's more perfect than having two people across from a table and it's just an inquisitor interviewing someone? And
yeah.
then I was just like, all right, I went with that from there. Now, one of the reasons why I was able to write it so quickly and be able to just knock it out was I was deployed to Iraq. And so I can creatively say a bunch of ways to say I wasn't doing much that day or that few days because I was between missions. But for parental guidance and all that stuff, I'm just going to be like, yeah, I had a lot of spare time those few days because I had just gotten back from a mission where I was working with the Iraqis. So, other than just sitting on my bed or playing video games or going to do research or stuff like that, I decided to take my spare time and actually just crank that out. It also helped because it's really stressful over there, and so I was able to just have a creative outlet. And so it was pretty nice to be able to put myself to something that I made, that was art in a sense, that was also very creative and something in a way that I could express myself. And so that's why you have that grim dark interrogation. And
Yeah,
that's how I was able to pump it out so quick.
yeah, yeah. Because when I read that, I was fairly like I was surprised just how quickly that you wrote out that dialogue. I know it takes me a little bit to get good dialogue. Like there's decent dialogue that holds up and it can pass, but it doesn't fully catch your attention. And what you wrote, it just like blew my mind just how quickly you got it because that takes at least a week for me to think out think out something good. Um, so moving on to just your inspirations from 40K itself, you've already talked about a little bit about it. My very first question is, what's your favorite faction in 40K?
Oh, you're dirty.
Yeah,
I've been playing Guard for 20 years.
yeah.
But so I love the Imperial Guard. I love Steel Legion. I love Death Korps Krieg.
You say I'm dirty. Huh.
Oh, be quiet, you.
No, we're not gonna get into the rivalry, but
I,
yeah,
al-
go ahead, talk about it.
I also have a Word Bearers force, and I have Custodes. The Word
Ooh,
Bearers, I know the Golden Boys.
yeah.
So the Word Bearers I have is just a fun army. Basically, I just get to have fun summoning demons and praising the dark gods. But for my main army that I've been playing for so long, it's always been the Guard. There's something about a normal dude like you or me getting issued some flak armor. and go told to stay in a trench with a laser M16 and saying like, yeah, all right, you're gonna go fight the horrors of the universe. Demonic incursion, all right, you're gonna hold this trench. All right, rebellion, all right, you're gonna go take this city block. And like, or giant bugs. Imagine Starship Troopers. It's like the only good bug is a dead bug. Before we even go further than that, but that same dude given flak armor and that laser 556 M16, whatever it wants to be, and
Yeah.
faith in the Emperor is holding the line. And so I've always loved that.
Yo, you always love not having anything in life.
Well,
that's
their
that's
average
that's
life
what it sounds
expectancy,
like.
according to some books, is 15 hours. So, I mean, we got to keep churning them through.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I like that though. You even though it's your escape from reality, you have an escape within that reality to another reality of being evil. That's great. That's some meta stuff right there.
Well, the thing is, like, I love the word bearers. I love the Sisters of Battle, two different factions in Warhammer, because they're just religious zealots. And I'm like, I'm so far away from that that it's such a weird concept that I actually get to somehow explore. And I'm like, oh, so they believe in their faith this much, and then they just go do their crazy shit, and it's beautiful. I love it.
All right, so one thing I do wonder is when because I know we talked about the and you mentioned it the audio drama format being kind of new to you. Um, when you saw the final product, how did you think of that whole thing being turned into that? Like what I guess what difference did you see out of from what you wrote to what it turned out to be? And I made tiny edits. There's nothing massive, but I'm aware that I've made those edits.
Yeah, and I was aware you made those edits too, but I was never actually opposed because it helped everything flow in a concise manner. What I will say was I never thought that my work would be enjoyed by people, which is why I've always done it by myself. But you have an amazing crew when it came to voice actors, and you were able to bring what I wrote to life. Uh, and it was different than what I imagined, so it was really weird because when I wrote it, I imagined like this grizzly old dude sitting across the table from another like bald dude, and they were just talking. But you were like, "Hey, let's do the Inquisitor as a chick," and I'm like, "Okay." And so it brought that whole new depth. So whenever I got to actually rewatch or re-listen to my story, it wasn't completely mine, but I also enjoyed that because it brought a whole new aspect and a whole new depth to it. So what I would say is it's not going to be exactly like you would imagine it in your head. That would be that free form, just writing paragraphs on paragraphs and having them read it.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to be able to experience my work in a different way than I had originally wrote it.
Yeah, so the two voice actors at the time that responded to because I blast out calls. I'm like, hey, who's interested? And these two voice actors at the time were interested, and they had been working with me. There's Sarah Mears, who played the Inquisitor, and Scott Allen, who played the Thaddeus, I believe was his name.
Correct.
Yeah, they're professional voice actors over in California, and they've been working with me nonstop ever since I was on Hit Record, doing the same exact thing, just asking random people. But so when I asked her to do it, there's something interesting about her. She said she's not in that range of voice acting, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, what do you mean you're not in that range? Like it's just to me in my mind, I'm like, it's just a character you learn to get into. Um, and of course, I gave voice references for it, obviously based off of the Dawn of War games. What else is it gonna be based off of? But yeah, so I gave that to her, and she listened to a few other voices within Dawn of War, and she realized it's not her area. So it was interesting to hear her version of the Inquisitor. I wasn't off the top of my head. I'm thinking like she's got it, and I think she got it, perfectly. But she didn't feel that it was on par with how you wrote it. That was interesting because you don't hear that too often, at least when most of the voice actors I've worked with, even the ones on their level, they don't really they don't really mention that. They just give it their best, and they're like, man, it's just not that great, and that's it. But she said to how you wrote, she doesn't feel that she did it justice or that she matched it entirely how you wrote it. And you mentioning that you're imagining like that grizzled man, um, that's kind of how what she imagined too. So it was interesting just to see that go down because I never explained too much about the characters. I don't even think I gave them backgrounds. I just said here. This is the new, the new audio drama that I'm trying to do right now.
Hey guys, surprise! Here's the script. Have fun.
Yeah, that's kind of how I throw things at them because they're so when they got time they'll do it and they don't really need explanation because they just Scott's explained before you read the character his dialogue and you start to understand the atmosphere that's in there and you start to match it as best you can. So it helps bring their creative side without having to limit it, and then it helps show your creative side by saying, "Hey, this is what I've written. Turn it into something real." And it's just amazing how people work together without even talking to each other to get all that down, and then the final product comes out, and you're like, "It's completely awesome."
Oh yeah, and Sarah, like you did a fantastic job. You don't ever have to think anything negative. I loved how you did it. You did it great justice. So I'm just gonna give her that shout out. So you don't have to worry about anything with me.
Yeah, honestly, I think she could do those kind of roles. It's just maybe not her expertise on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she's definitely on the other side of that type of voicing though. So we've talked a little bit about the Warhammer 40K influences. Were there any influences from the military besides being in Iraq and your situation at the time? Was there something in the past that you might have pulled from, or something going, there's something else?
Um. So being in the military, like I understand what it's like to have those like super stressful like sit down interview kind of deals. So I could like draw on that. But the biggest thing I use whenever it comes to like my writing and having 40K influence that based on my job is understanding like different military things. I know it might sound really obscure and weird, but being able to understand like how a squad will function or something like that will be able to help me write about it. When I write battle scenes, they are even worse in depth. Like writing, like here's this all happening, or it's just the exact opposite, where it's
Acc-
like, and then he killed
accidentally,
17 people.
yeah,
Yeah, like it's just out of nowhere. But
accidentally put in
uh,
there Battle Drill 6.
well, no. Stop. No, I'm not that bad.
Thank God.
Yes. But I will say it has helped me understand like the stresses of being in those kind of situations in a way. Or it could have also helped me understand like how different things would function, not only in a real world, but how I could make them function in that fantasy world as well to make it more believable to a reader who may have that experience or
Yeah.
may just think they have that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good thing to talk about. There's a friend of mine that I've worked with on various other audio dramas that I've written. He always he's on the other side of that. He knows because he's a voice actor, does all that, and he knows about that entertainment side that people need to see so they can catch it and grab hold of what's awesome about the story. But every single time he mentions military or he wants to get into military stuff, I always tell him, I'm like, you gotta have some sort of realism of military in there. It's just, I mean, it doesn't have to be full fledged like people marching doing cadences, but we need like,
No, please, no,
yeah,
never
we
do that.
don't we
No.
don't want to see that, but we do want to see some, that guy pull a grenade out and properly do everything to throw that grenade instead of just pull it with his teeth and throw it. Like there's like a little bit more to it than that. Or
Whoa, you can pull the pin with your teeth, okay? Like you're gonna have a dental experience after a few of them. But
yeah,
the
that's
the biggest thing, the biggest thing I'd say is to be able to understand that like once that grenade leaves your hand, like what's the damage it's gonna do? It's not Starship Troopers. You're not throwing a mini nuke as a
yeah,
grenade, but you like have this small little thing in TNT and it causes shrapnel, right? So it's gonna cause that kind of damage whenever you're describing the scene after throwing it versus like the super unbelievable thing where like, oh, threw the grenade, the entire building went down. Like,
we,
so you have to understand that.
I mean, yeah. That's also a part of it. One of the pet peeves of I think anybody in the military I mean, me included. I feel this. I feel this bad. Anybody in the military that watches anything where they're dressed a certain way, you already know everybody is just dogging on that because it's never going to be 100%, which we're not expecting, but it goes deep into that. Just like, yeah, I'm gonna wear my collar all wrapped up around my neck, or I'm gonna wear my boots like tucked in, even though I'm in civilian clothes right now. Like
Yeah.
one of them that gets really bad is Punisher. He does exactly that. He wears his freaking shit tucked in right into his boots, and he's not even in a uniform anywhere. I mean, obviously they always wear the dog tags. That's like the trademark thing of I'm on a show and I am in the military, so let me show that I am military related. I'm a veteran.
The cringe factor is
Yeah.
real, and I think that only we would understand, like with that background or something like that. So, like it to most people, they're gonna be like, "Oh, cool, dog tags, shake, jing, jing, jingle, 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 jingle."
Yeah.
But we're over here like, ugh,
Yeah.
because
It
it reminds us
just
of that like 18-year-old private who's like, "Look at me, guys." I mean, yes, it's a great thing you've done, amazing, but like, stop it, please.
but stop it. Oh man.
We can get into a whole another hour long segment talking
We
about stuff
def
like this.
we definitely could, and I'm gonna cut there, and I'm gonna leave that for another another recording, because
That sounds good to me.
that's definitely way too much to talk about. But I do
We can
appreciate
vent.
I appreciate you writing all that for me. That's great, and so people know, I work pretty much in a sister company that Branson over here works in. So we used to see each other pretty often. Now we don't really because he's always doing something else. So, but it's
Well, you
whatever.
left me. You don't write me. You don't say hi anymore. You don't love me. Like, what am I supposed to do?
you're
I'm the
supposed to
abused stepchild that you forgot about.
you're
All right.
supposed to love me unconditionally, but it's okay. It's all right. Sort of okay, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
um, So, any words of advice you have for anybody else who might be in your situation, whether it be military, not military related, of just writing?
Okay, just writing. All right. So I'll give you two pieces. One, just a general one. All right. So I got advice, right?
Yeah.
And it was write a smiley face. This is whatever your job, right? If you enjoyed your day at work, and put a frowny face if you didn't enjoy your day at work on a calendar somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
at the end of the year, you count them up. All right. And if it's higher frowny faces by a lot, you might want to look into something that might make you happier. I've done that
Oh
and I've
wow.
made my decision. Yeah, and it was amazing because it's funny because you're like, oh, it's a happy face. Yay, I did a good thing today. But then you realize there's 7 frowny faces behind it, and you're like, oh, so you don't get that whole like one-sided rose
Oh
colored
wow. I
glasses. But
never
what I
thought
will
about
say
doing
to
that.
writing is, honestly, just do it. For writing, like I went out of my comfort zone and I went into this audio drama, like where I have 3 voice actors, I have a narrator and 2 people, and it was very different for me because I'm used to having like a larger cast or just more grandiose feel, right? But I was
Yeah.
able to work within my means and what we had to make that audio drama, just a simple discourse, be able to hold people's attention, to be able to tell a story and to tell it well. So, what my advice would be for you as a person listening now is just honestly try it. Like, you might not like it, you might like it. It could go either way. Maybe you're good, maybe you're not. But if it's worth doing poorly. And then you get better. All right. So, never
Aha.
let something so, all right, it's a weird concept. You always hear like, if it's worth doing perfect or well or
No,
whatever. No, stop.
that's a perfect that's perfect to explain. Like it's worth doing poorly.
Yeah. So, for example, if you only have 2 minutes at the end of your day, is it better to brush your teeth shittily for 2 minutes, or is it better not to do it at all? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing it. It doesn't matter the outcome. It's the fact that, like, so as I'm writing, like, I didn't just get to where I'm at overnight. I had to keep doing it. And I'm not going to lie, a bunch of my stories were pretty shitty. But I just kept randomly doing it because it made me happy. And so I kept writing randomly. So what I will say is, you get better over time. Just do it. I'm not doing a Nike commercial. I'm literally telling you guys, if you want to write, write. Like, there's no one stopping you but yourself.
All right, yeah, that's some great words of advice there. That's definitely one that needs to be pushed out more to the creative community because that's actually stopped a lot of people from being able to work with me. I've run into that a few times, so I hope y'all hear that. Hope y'all hear it, and I hope y'all try it. That's the best part is at least try it. Try it more than once, max, minimum 3 times at least. All right, well,
Just do it. Literally, just have fun with it. It does like so. I paint Warhammer miniatures. I've been doing it for a while. I remember having purple Urukai when I first started because it was fun, and I got made fun of a lot. But cool story. Don't care. Still had fun. They were my miniatures, mine. But what I'll say is like I can still remember my first paint jobs I ever did for this game, and they were abysmally horrible. But you know who cared? Everyone else who wasn't me, because I was happy. It's like Bob Ross, right? So there's no mistakes. There's only happy accidents. You just got to improve yourself from there.
yeah, yeah. Well, that'll end it right here. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of Meeting the Crew and getting insight on one of the talents behind Pathios production. You can check it out and check out all the related content that we talked about. Will be down in the description below. Y'all be easy now.
Bye!